Alright, this is going to be a really weird video, a really niche video, and a video that, I'm doing because I'm bored, and maybe just want to reminisce a bit. So I was, and I want to make this clear, I was really into this game for a long, long time. I was basically a part of a super niche community, right? Because Halo Wars 2, I think, came out like 7, 8 years ago, but I played the original Halo Wars, like, since I had it, and up until probably still, like, we're talking a year or so ago. Like, I played Halo Wars so goddamn much. It was my favorite game, but at the same time, for a long time, really niche. I mean, when Halo Wars 2 came out, I think things changed a little bit. There was a little bit of, like, a revitalization, I guess, if you will. But for a long time, I didn't even think Halo Wars 2 was in the cards. I mean, I was playing the original Halo for years already, and then, just randomly Halo Wars 2. Oh, what's that? That'll be fun. But either way, that's just to say, I was in this very, very niche community for a long time, and I don't know, I wanted to reminisce a little bit, so I thought I'd talk about, let's say, I'll say 4 individuals that I interacted with during this time. If you're not knowledgeable about this community, you might not know any of these people, but if you are, then this might be a little walk down an old road you haven't seen in a long time. I think I want to start with the ones people might know, and then lead toward the ones that people would know less and less. So I'm going to just talk about first my first experience, okay? My first experience is with a person named Topher, okay? In this very, very niche community, this is a guy that was really into playing a little more competitively and things like that. And I didn't interact a lot with Topher, but we did meet once or twice, and I have to say, holy God, was that the worst experience. So he was a part of, like, I don't know, maybe you have seen, like, some DVD or something, because I stream that sometimes now, but he was a part of, like, this, like I said, the subsect where they're very competitive, and if you can, like, transfer, that idea of being competitive over to other games, basically, like, I'm, playing down here, I'm just playing casually, he's, like, going all over the place and, finding all these strategies, and then he looks at me and he's like, you're a loser. And I remember my experiences with Topher, albeit brief, were normally getting a lot of insults for not playing the way he wanted me to play. And I'll definitely say that a lot of these fans treated me much the same. The next person I want to talk about was a little different. That was Death Toaster. Now, I know these two played together a bit, and they were, at least somewhat of friends, but as far as I know. But, this guy, I didn't really get to interact with. I think I might have talked to him once, but I had a much better experience with because I mostly stuck to videos. And if you look at some of these videos, like, oh god, like, this gives me so much nostalgia. But, I used to watch this guy a lot, mainly for Super Turtles, which, if you don't know, a Super Turtle basically, in the terms of the game, is you basically, lock either yourself or the enemy into a certain zone and just keep them there as long as possible, basically until they either quit or you get bored and kill them. Or maybe they can somehow get out. So basically, it was making the game very, very, very unfun for other people and just seeing how long you could hold out. But I used to love those videos. I didn't get to interact with him much, but the difference between him and, like, Topher, for example, was it was a lot more casual. It was just having fun, and that was more my speed. I'm blitzing this, by the way. I'm just gonna go through these 4 people really quick. I think the fourth one's probably the one that you might have a little more fun with in terms of stories, but whatever. The third one I want to talk about, I would show you their YouTube channel, but as far as I know, it does not exist anymore. So, their name was Apple Clutter, basically. They, how do I word this? So, this person just doesn't exist anymore. back in the day, right, they had Apple. I'm just gonna call him that instead of saying like Apple Clutter every single time. They had him, like there was like a shout out on Halo Follower and things like that. I couldn't find that. I think it was Halo Follower. I couldn't find that. But he was one of the bigger like Halo Wars channels, a little bit of a niche thing. My experience with Apple Clutter, I will say I did interact with him a lot more than the other two. I was in like a video or two and, talked to him a bit. My experience with him was a bit more... it was a bit different. So what do I have to say? Well, Apple Clutter... Okay, so I'm a very casual player, but when you play a game enough, you end up just kind of getting a little more skill, right? So you're at least okay. Apple Clutter did not try to leave his bounds very often. He basically did the exact same thing every time he played with him, and was kind of the guy that gets carried all the time. Thing is, though, he was really popular in terms of the Halo Wars community at the very least, and not a bad guy or anything, but he was an interesting experience to say the least. I remember my one story that comes to mind with Apple Clutter is when Halo Wars finally had a backwards compatibility with the Xbox. I think it was the Xbox One. Whenever you hit like the like the start like menu button or whatever, the game would just like crash. So I remember being in a video with him just showing off how like how like insane this freaking glitch is that just completely ruins the game, and people would basically just hit this button and hold it hostage until they win. That's one of the things I remember with him. I also remember people clowning on him because he was a little bit more wacky than some of the other ones, but he was probably like one of the like few like genuine like YouTuber types in the community. Now, the last person I just want to talk about. Okay, this is a little different. If you know this person, I know I'm writing with a mouse, so it doesn't look that clear, but it's basically Dilbert. Dilbert's an interesting fellow, okay? So I want to make this clear. I played this game for a really long time, to the point where some of like the people I knew, they're having like kids. Like I was playing this game probably over a decade at this point. This person, probably played it just as long, if not longer, than me. This is probably the most toxic person you might have ever seen in a video game. First of all, he probably had more accounts than any person in the history of Xbox. He was the kind of person that would make 400 different alt accounts. He's probably still playing today. I can't say was the kind of person. He probably still plays. But he's the kind of person that would have, 400 little alt accounts, so every time one of his accounts gets banned, he can go on to one of these other ones. This is the person that, like, would join your lobby and probably say every bad thing in the book, and then he only did the exact same strategy, and there was this strategy in the game called Warthog Rushing. What is Warthog Rushing? Well, it's basically using the basic starting units to just overwhelm the enemy as much as possible. The thing about it is, it's one of those things where, like, you can probably learn it. I imagine most people can, but most people don't really want to, because the idea of just swarming people every single game and only doing the same strategy isn't the most fun. So you would think, like, oh, well, Dilbert, did he maybe do competitive if he's so, invested in the game? No. No, he did not. Dilbert would join every lobby in the book just to ruin them. And I want to talk about my one experience. Well, not one. I've had a lot of experiences with Dilbert. But when I first started the whole YouTube thing, I actually started like Twitch a little before that just to mess around with it. I only do this for fun, but like I thought streaming would be a little more casual. Turns out things didn't go too well. Number one, I was probably the only person that played Halo Wars on Twitch. Halo Wars 2 was a little more popular, but Halo Wars 1, I was probably the only streamer for this game most days. And Dilbert, of course, we had a little bit of a history, but also he saw like, oh, there's a person streaming my favorite game that I get to be a dick to. So yeah, I was the target. I remember plenty of days, I'm playing Halo Wars, maybe one of my friends, you might have seen Evan in some of my videos. We're playing, and then we get the attack of the Dilbert, where he would just swarm in and play, like, try to ruin every game we have. My experience with Dilbert is basically, if you ban one of his accounts, then another will rise. So we just had infinite Dilberts until you stop playing the game. Of course, maybe you could win and things like that, but half the time it's not worth staying in a game when you know exactly what's going to happen every single time you play, right? So basically it was like, when Dilbert's on, it's time to just stop playing because you're not going to have any fun. But yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit more of a niche thing. Before I did that, it was, sometimes he would try to snipe you when you're playing a game or whatever, but when you start streaming the game, I think he's a little more invested in making things less fun. I don't know. At the end of the day, I didn't really care too much, but it was still just like a silly experience to kind of reminisce on. But yeah, I mean, that's all I really wanted to do in this video, just reminisce a little bit about a game that I played for a long, long time. I don't know if you want a little recap, but we talked about Topher, who's a tryhard who's not very fun. I don't want to say that. I mean, I'm sure he's an okay guy. Can't say I love to play in him, or anything, or talking to any of his cronies, but hey, competitive people really like to be competitive. We talked about Death Toaster, who is probably like the noob 3, I guess, of Halo Wars, where he was just kind of having fun, doing whatever he wanted, and probably at the time, the biggest Halo Wars channel. I think there's some other ones that came up after that when Halo Wars 2 hit its stride, but at the time, when it was a little more niche, probably the biggest Halo Wars channel for a while. We talked about Apple Clutter and how he just basically doesn't exist on the internet anymore, and was, he tried his best. And then, of course, we talked about Dilbert. The biggest troll in the Halo Wars community that probably still plays it to this day, because I don't know when he doesn't play Halo Wars. But yeah, I don't know. This is just me talking about Halo Wars a little bit, because it's just a fun game that I really like. I mean, I think my first video on YouTube was a Halo Wars video.
Alright, on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1, go.
There's just a shadow.
Oh my god. The game.
I think that was literally, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was my first video ever on YouTube. You could still see my, like, my Twitch in the bio. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those games that's near and dear to my heart, and I thought it would be kind of fun to reminisce on a game that I really like. I still play it sometimes. Like, I think, there's a couple of times that I've streamed it. Probably been a while. Yeah, 5 months ago. But, whatever. It's one of those niche games that I think will always be in my heart, but it's definitely not doing the best. Not thriving, let's say. But yeah, I don't know. If this was like a little bit of a memory jog for some people, then yeah, there you go. And if you're upset about me saying that Topher's not a cool guy, then cry. No, that's so mean. No, it's fine. I don't care. I was just, it's hyperbole for YouTube, okay? He's fine. I don't care about him. I'm sure he's a great person. He's just not... It's clashing personalities, okay? Clashing personalities. But, yeah, I don't know. There's a little walk down memory lane for Halo Wars if, whatever. And if you haven't played Halo Wars or know anything about it, then I guess that's just a little bit of an introspective into 4 interesting people. I don't know, maybe I'll talk about some other stories about this game later, but not now. But yeah, I don't know, like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. Maybe I don't know, tell me something else you want me to talk about, watch, read, whatever. And yeah, I'll see ya.